Welcome to our weekly Forex Forecast, and this is for the week of February 25th to March 1st, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. Now let's dive into our analysis here. So as usual, we will first start off by taking a look at our calendar here, and then we will look at the charts. So this week, starting the week off here today, we have New Zealand dollar data coming out here, retail sales number. Retail sales numbers is usually important, so we'll have, we should see an impact on New Zealand dollar, especially today on a Sunday, because everybody else will be closed. So during this low liquidity times, we tend to see a bigger response. So just be mindful of that. On Monday here, right in the morning, we have Bank of England, Governor Carney speaking here. So quick question here, what time, my timing here is in Eastern Standard Time here for my economic calendar here. So 5 a.m. Eastern here, we have Bank of England, Governor Carney speaking. So every time there are members speaking here, so any central banker speaking, we tend to have, we can have a reaction in the currency. So be careful with this one. So with British pound here, we've got a couple of things going on. One is Brexit. So every day we're getting Brexit news out of that. So they're still trying to negotiate the Brexit deal there. So comments that come out of those negotiations do make a difference. And on top of that, then we have central banker speaking, Governor Carney speaking. That will have an impact. So British pound right now is volatile because of what's going on in those regard there, especially from Brexit. So if you're trading any British pound crosses, just be aware of that you can have this volatility. So next one is our Tuesday. We have inflation report hearing. So inflation is one of the key things that central bankers look at. So when anything to do with inflation comes out or inflation report comes out, this tends to have an impact on the currency. So we should see British pound being impacted by that. And then we have another central banker here on Tuesday. We have consumer confidence numbers out of the US, but also Fed Chair Powell will be testifying, like I said, for Governor Carney there. Same thing here. It has a potential to move the dollar. Now, even though when the FOMC meeting minutes came out, nothing really has changed. But Powell was the one who was, last year the Fed was quite bullish. Now they're not. So market will be watching his response as to what his thoughts are on the state of the economy and where things will be. And next one here on Wednesday, Canada, we have CPI number here. Again, inflation numbers are very important. So this will have to keep an eye on and will likely move the Canadian dollar. So good numbers, positive numbers here will have a positive impact on Canadian dollar, because Bank of Canada is another one of those central banks that have been raising rates. Now they are also backing off, just like Fed. So if the numbers come out positive, like the CPI numbers, then the market starts expecting the central or Bank of Canada to raise rates, right? They will think that at some point Bank of Canada will raise rates. So it creates that positive expectation for the currency, and hence the currency will go up. So watch out for Canadian dollar being impacted by the CPI numbers. So we have Fed Chair Powell testifying again on Wednesday as well. And then we have business confidence numbers for New Zealand. Again, these numbers will be important, and they're coming out in the Asian session when we have low liquidity. So the move can be more than you would normally see that during more busy hours here. Australia here, private capital expenditures. Again, important number here. So we'll have to pay attention to it and like I said, it can impact Australian dollars. Any positive number here will, if it comes higher than expected, we are looking for Australian dollar to go up. If it comes lower than expected, especially if it comes even lower than the previous number here, Australian dollar is likely to drop on that. On Thursday here, we have advanced GDP numbers for the U.S. Again, important number because this tells us how the economy will be doing here. And then we have current account numbers for Canada. So these numbers are important, especially right now with all this talk about trade wars and stuff like that. So if we see that the current account number goes down, that is negative. So we always have to compare it to what the expectations are. So when the numbers come in below expectations, it will have a negative impact on the currency. So we'll have to look at Canadian dollar. Canada is a big exporter of, they're just big exporters, especially of oil. So this number will be important here. And again, we have Fed Chair Powell speaking on Thursday again, and on Friday. GDP numbers for Canada, very important number. And then we have PMI numbers for the US. So important numbers here for the US dollar and will likely have an impact on that. So a few things coming out, but we have to watch out for the central bankers here. Okay, so next, let's go on to the charts here. And we will start off with our euro dollar. Okay, here we go. So euro dollar, as we see, it has been trading in this range for some time and it's still stuck in the range. So last week it dropped here, but then it has pushed back up because we were at the week before it dropped, went into almost into the bottom of the range, got pushed back up. Now it's at an interesting point here. So the candle close here for the weekly, we have the wick is about the same size as the candle body. Because it's green here, it still has bullishness in the price, so it can go back up. So when we are trading a range-bound market, generally what happens is price goes into the bottom of the range, gets pushed back up, goes into the top of the range, gets pushed back down, until such time that it actually breaks out of the range. And as we can see here, price is not broken out of the range so far. So since September of 2018, euro dollar has been trading in a range. And now we have just gotten got pushed up from the bottom of the range now. So there are two different things that we can look for here, because the way the candle is, it's not a hugely bullish candle, but there is still bullishness in the candle. So when we have that, generally first criteria will be to look for a move to the upside. However, another thing to pay attention to here is that we are into support resistance level here. So here at 1.1360 level here, we see this is an important support resistance level that price has tested several times. And as such, if price does not get through it, then we can see a pushback towards the bottom of the range again. And I will look for price to go test the bottom of the range. So our scenario here, basically, we are looking for two different things. We are looking for one, to see if price goes through this. So two things. One, if price does not go through 1.1360, it stays below, then I will look for price to drop. Now, if it does get to the other side, because it is bullish, now I would look for this type of a move. So currently, because we are at important support and resistance levels, we have two different scenarios that could play out, and we just have to go and wait and see which one actually, where it goes, and then we can trade in that direction. So overall bias is bullish, but we do have those two scenarios. So that's our euro dollar. Pound dollar here, this was interesting because we saw a big drop and then we saw that big move up on Friday. As a result of that, we do have a bullish candle close here. So last time we had this pin here, and that was bullish. So now we have bullish candle close. So this is another bullish scenario for British pound here. So pound, our bias is to the upside because of this nice bullish candle close here. So target will be 1.3310, so 1.3310. So bullish bias here for bullish bias here in terms of our pound dollar here. So that's pound dollar. Next one, we have Aussie dollar here. Aussie dollar also moved higher. Oh, actually, also, I forgot to mention another thing that's having an impact on the markets right now, and it's creating volatility in the market, are the trade talks between US and China. So currently, they are negotiating the talks. We saw that US delegates had gone to China, and last week Chinese delegates were here negotiating those. So I would keep an eye out for any comments out of those negotiations. Okay, sorry, my apologies there, coughing like crazy. Okay, so I would watch out for that, because that will have an impact. So any positive news in terms to our comments, in terms to them reaching an agreement or coming close to reaching an agreement, will have positive impact on the equity markets. So the equity indices will go up, and our Japanese yen crosses will go up as well, and the yen will drop. And any comments in regards to them not reaching an agreement or not being close to reaching an agreement will have an opposite impact. All right. So for Aussie dollar here, we have a perfectly neutral candle close. Price opened and closed at exactly the same point, didn't really do much. So this is an indecision candle. This one also, Aussie has also been trading in this range for some time, except for that flash crash that happened. It's been in this range for a while now. So right now it's right in the middle, and it can go either direction. So bias here is neutral. So what we can look for is for the price to go and test the high. So if price goes and tests the high, holds below, then we're looking for price to drop. But because it's a neutral candle, it can also go to test the low. And then I would be looking for a rejection, a potential rejection at this level. So those are the two scenarios here. So bias here is neutral for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar here. This one is also neutral here. We saw price go in both directions. Here we go. So this is what we have at the moment. So this one has also, if you can see, has been trading in this range for quite some time. So all the US dollar crosses really since September here, they've just been going up and down without really any sort of major trend going on at the moment. So up and down, that's all we have here. So this is sort of neutral here as well. There is a little bit of bearishness in this candle because of the red here, but this one can also go in both directions. So what I would look for is first to see if it pushes up. If it does, I would look for a reaction at 0.6940 level here, which is the top of this range. And I would look for sellers over here. So I would look for a price to drop. Now, if it does start to the bottom here, I would look for a reaction first at the bottom of this candle, weekly candle here, to look for something like that. Or I will look for price to go all the way into the bottom of the range and then back up. So this one, the bias here would be neutral to slightly bullish, because I'd be looking for a move like that. So target here in that case would be 0.6940 here for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here. Dollar CAD had some good news because of the oil here, and now we have a bearish candle close. So this one, last week, we had a neutral candle, and we talked about how if price stays below this high of this candle, it could drop, and it did that. And we have a bearish candle close here. Looks like a solid bearish candle here. So the bias here is bearish, and I would look for a bit of a push to the upside into here 1.3200 level, and then a drop from there. So bias is bearish, and first target for dollar CAD here is 1.3070 level. And then beyond that, I would look for a 1.2970. So back into this support resistance area here. So bearish bias for dollar CAD. Euro pound here has been interesting. We had a nice pin bar here, and now we have seen a drop. So we had two pins back to back. That's a really good, it suggests that price is likely to drop from there. So we got that drop, and now looking for price to drop further. This is a nice solid bearish candle here as well. Be mindful. So the thing to keep in mind with the euro pound would be how pound gets impacted by Brexit negotiations. So if Brexit news comes out positive, then we will likely see this euro pound drop. But if, let's say, there are some negative comments about Brexit, then British pound can drop, which can cause this to go back up. So that's the only thing to keep in mind. But based on the purely just the technicals here, looking for it to drop. First target is 0.8620, and this is a strong support and resistance area. Twice price rejected this area, which means we could see a similar reaction here, and watch out for that. So that will be the first thing. Now, if it does go through it, let's say some really positive news comes out for UK British pound here, then we could see a break here, and it could go lower. But first target here is 0.8620. Bias is bearish. Euro Swiss franc here hasn't done a whole lot for the last 3 weeks. We've kind of been looking for price to drop here, and it's just been trading sideways, but it hasn't broken above the high, which is a good indication that it's likely to drop. We have a small pin bar here, which means bias is to the downside. So I'd be looking for price to drop here. So bearish bias, looking for it to go down, 1.1260. That is what I'm looking for. So bearish bias here for Euro Swiss franc. Pound Swiss franc here. This one has gone both ways, dropped, gone back up. So let's take a look at the weekly here. Overall weekly is bullish. Last time it was neutral here, but it had a little bit of bullishness. Now it is bullish, but we are into resistance. So with this one, I will look for it to first go test 1.3130, so bullish bias here, and then potentially into 1.3180. So that will be the target here, the top of this pin bar. But overall, the bias here is bullish. It is going higher. And it can go even higher here. As we can see, it is a bullish bias. So I would look for something like this. And first target, 1.3180. Second target, 1.3300. So bullish bias for pound Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc still sitting here. US dollar did not fare so well last week. And as a result, we have a bearish candle close here. Now, with this one, we are into support. So this is the support resistance we are at 0.9990 level. And price was stuck here on the daily for the last 3 days, but it's still sitting right on top of the support. So when price starts to pressure the support level, a lot of times it can break. So that's what I would watch out for as the first thing. But bias is to the downside based on this bearish candle close. But do watch out for this strong support level. As we can see, it got tested several times. So bias for this week is bearish. And I would look for price to drop here. So looking for a move like this, basically to the downside. So in this case, the first target would be 0.9940 level. then 0.9900. So bearish bias for dollar Swiss franc. Pound yen, this one also has gone up. Last week we had a neutral stance for this one, a neutral candle close here as we can see, and as a result with slight bullishness, and it went up. Now we are into the support resistance level. So last time we had this solid bullish candle close where price sort of dragged down here, but overall bias here is bullish, and this could lead to another bullish move higher because it is holding above this previous support resistance level. So I would look for price to go higher here. And so bias is bullish. The target will be right into 149.50. But be mindful of this one because it could do a double top and just come back down. So bias is bullish, but watch out for resistance here. And target is 149.50. Euro yen here, this one has done better than other one, British pound yen. So this one also into resistance. It has been trading in this range for the past 5 weeks here. So all these weekly candle closes within the range. Now we are at the top of the range from a daily perspective. So if we go to a daily here, so we see how price has done a double top here and a small pin bar. So overall here, this is kind of the range it's been trading in. And as such, I will look for price to come back towards the middle of the range and drop a bit from daily perspective. So something like this, maybe come back towards a 124.80 level. So in this case, from a daily perspective, bias is to the downside. But if we go a little bit higher here on the weekly, we are into resistance. And as we can see, price is right into our resistance level here. So I would look for price to drop back into our range here. Now, should it break out, then we're looking into a 127.20 level. So in that case, what we would look for is a breakout, a pullback, and then looking for it to go higher. So those are the two scenarios, but basically it's range bound, so looking for it to come back into the range. Dollar yen has just been going sideways here, hasn't really done a whole lot. So this is where we are in terms of our support resistance. It went right into or close to the high here, and it's just hung out there for most of the week. So in this case, I would look for a potential drop here as well. Now, for some reason, if we get good news out of the negotiations, so let's say they say, okay, we have reached some sort of an agreement. In that case, I would look for this to go higher. Now, that goes for all the yen crosses. If we get positive news out of the trade negotiations saying that they're close to reaching an agreement or they have reached an agreement, in that case, I will look for a further move to the upside. And we could potentially get like larger moves in the yen here going all the way into the high. But for now, so right now, my first scenario that I'm looking for is it goes and tests the high and drops. So my bias right now is slightly to the downside, but should the news come out, like I said, it could get really bullish really fast. Aussie yen. Aussie yen has given us, okay, so it went into the high and then got rejected. So this one is sort of neutral here as well with a larger pin on the top, which means we could see it come down again. So I would look for a bit of a move like this. There's slight bullishness in the candle still. So I would look for price to go into the top of the range here and then move back down. But overall, it has rejected the top of the range. So I'm looking for it to drop. And again, as we see here, since December here, this has been trading in a range. So this is also range bound. Many of the pairs that we are looking at have been range bound here, especially dollar and yen crosses. They have just been kind of waiting on what the market's going to do, what the trade relations are going to come out as. All of those things are just sort of putting them in a holding pattern for now. All right, so next one here, New Zealand yen. New Zealand yen, again, into support resistance level here. We were bullish last week, and we were looking for a retest of this level. It got retested, and it dropped from there. Now we have a bit of a neutral candle close in this one here as well. So I would look for price to go and test this support resistance level again. If it doesn't go through, I would look for a move back down here. So it rejected it once. If it rejects it twice, that's a really good signal for a drop there. So for now, bias is neutral. I will look for a retest of this level. If it doesn't go through 76.40, then I am looking for it to drop. Now, should it go through on positive news, like I said, for the trade relations, then I will look for a move up, 77.40. And like I said, if it's really positive news, like we have reached an agreement, then all the yen crosses could go much higher. This one here is bullish. This is CAD yen, looking quite bullish. Nice solid candle close there. So I will look for price to go higher. 84.80 will be the first target here, and then looking for it to go higher into 85.50 level. So bullish bias for CAD yen. Okay, so let's take a quick look at equity. Before we go to equities, let's take a look at commodities. So our gold has been interesting. Last week, we had a nice bullish pin bar on this, and we were looking for it to go up. It did. And now we have seen it go into the support resistance level, and it got rejected. There's a large pin on top with a slight bullishness in the candle, which means this is looking bearish, and we could see it drop further. So looking at the daily here, that's a really nice evening star pattern here. So looking for it to drop. So this is the type of pattern I will look for. Basically, the bias is bearish and looking for it to come back into 1302. So bearish bias here for gold. For target for CAD yen, yes, it was to the upside. Okay, so gold is bearish, 1302, 1302 is the target. For our oil has held its own above this level. So if you take a look at the daily, it's sort of sat there for a number of days and kind of struggled with it. So it sat here for a couple of days, and as we see, it made that push higher into the next support and resistance level right there. And that's what we have at the moment. It's into our previous support resistance level. And now on the daily, we see this drop. So on a weekly basis, the candle looks bullish, but on a daily, we are at that support resistance level. And this is where price had that big drop here on the way down. So with this one, I would look for a retest of the high again at 57.95, so about 58. And if it holds below this level, then chances are we are going to see a drop because there will be sellers sitting here. This is a very important level, and we could see a drop. Now, what can also happen is it runs the stops and then drops back down. So be careful about the fake false breakout here, because a lot of times when we have something like this, an important support resistance area, it can run the stops and then drop from there. But overall, it has held above this 55.80 level. So this is the support resistance level it's into right now. What that means is that we have a bullish candle close. Bias is bullish overall, as we can see. It's trending to the upside. So our bias is still bullish. So I would look for a break. If it does not break, like I said, I'm looking for it to go into 55.80. Now, should it break to the upside, then I'm looking for this 59.80 level. So in that scenario, I'm going to look for a breakout, wait for a pullback, because if we take the first breakout, like I said, it could just run the stops and then drop. We don't want to do that. I will wait for a pullback. If it holds above, then look for it to go further up. So bias is to the upside. Next target is 59.80, but watch out for this 57.95 or 58.00 level. Next one is copper. So copper is bullish here, very bullish. As we can see, it has broken out of this range. Copper had been trading in this range for a while now. Let's see, it had been trading in this range since 0701. So it had been trading in this range and for months now, and it has finally broken out. So this is our breakout. So as we can see here, price broke out, did a pullback, and then went back up again. So it looks quite bullish here. Next target is higher. Now it is into the support resistance level. So just be careful because it has turned around there, but it is looking bullish. So bias is bullish. And next target here is 3.00. Now, what can happen here is watch out for this move here. Right, so it could drop back down. See how we had this big bullish move and then price came all the way down here before it kind of went back. So do watch out for that, because that can happen right after a big bullish move. It can just sort of trail back down right into this level and then give us that move here. So that's what I would watch out for, a bit of a drop before it continues on. So bias is bullish, but I would look for that drop. So first target would be the high of this, and then looking for it to continue up into 3.00. So bullish bias for copper. Okay, so now let's see what our silver is doing, and then we'll take a look at Bitcoin there. This one is very similar to what we saw with gold. It went into the high there, got rejected. See how we have similar candle here. So I would look for price to drop in this case as well. So just like gold, silver is also bearish. We could have a bit of a pushback or pushback to the upside before it drops further, but bias is bearish and target would be 15.46 for silver. So bearish bias, first target 15.46. If it does drop, then 15.24. So bearish bias there for silver as well. Bitcoin is kind of holding its own here. Still going sideways for the last several days here. So here it went up, held on to the high there, didn't really do a whole lot, made another push to the upside, and now it's holding on to the high here. So I would look for another push higher from Bitcoin right into the top here. 4073 is the first target. If it clears that level, then we are looking for a move to the downs. If it clears that level, then it could go further up. 42.31 level or 42.30 will become the next target. So in this case, looking for a bit of a move higher here. Looking for a move higher. We could get one of these after that because this is an important support resistance. But should it go through, again, breakout, so then it can just go back higher into this level. And then we should see some sellers step in and come back down here because this is an important support resistance level. So right now, bias is bullish. First target, 4073. Second target, almost 4240 level. So bullish bias for Bitcoin. All right, last part now. We are going to look at equity markets. S&P 500 looking bullish here. we saw the big move up, and this candle is also bullish. It didn't do as much because I think the market was waiting for what's going on. So let's go. Sorry, one quick thing here. It says the Bitcoin has dropped. My, you know what? Actually, that's quite possible, but that my charts haven't updated because my broker is closed on the weekends. So that, yes. So please look at charts that are going right now. So Forex doesn't, we don't trade on the weekends. Forex is closed on the weekends. So my Bitcoin charts may not have updated. So if it has dropped, then it will not be there. Yes, and TradingView is a good place to look for that. So right now, S&P 500, this is looking bullish, small candle, but bullish. And then we are into this important support and resistance level. So from technical perspective, this is interesting. So looking for it to go higher. And then I would expect some sellers to be sitting here at 28.17 level, and I would expect a drop there. Now, should the trade negotiations go extremely well, then I would look for a breakout to the upside for 28.73, or even potentially into the high of this candle here at 28.92. So bullish bias for S&P, but first target 28.17, and this is where I think we could come into resistance. Nikkei here. Nikkei looking bullish here. It's again, it's very small move this week. There was, I think the markets were just kind of waiting on the news there, but we are right into this resistance here now, into the top of this candle, this resistance. So as such, we could see price drop from there, especially if you take a look at the daily. It's not really moving very much, and we could get one of these. So a couple of things can happen when it just sits there, right? Either we get a big move to the upside because it's just been hanging around for so long, and it's just gathering that momentum, and we can have that momentum move. So it's just kind of gathering the orders that will give it momentum to the upside. So this is where we are. See how it's holding there? So when we see this holding pattern, kind of like here, see how it was holding right there, and it tried to go through, kind of ran the stops and then pushed back higher. So we are seeing similar thing here. It moved beyond the high. Now it's in a holding pattern here. So in this case, the couple of options will be one, that it's sitting there gathering orders, which means we could see a break, a pullback, and a further move to the upside. And this is the scenario we're likely to see should we get positive news from the negotiations, right? I will look for a move to the upside. Now, other case is that it's sitting there. We are into support resistance right here. If you see, it's coming all the way from here. So we are into support resistance. On a daily, it could go test the high once again and then drop back down towards 21233. So it's just at that level where it's kind of hanging on, but bias overall is bullish. As we can see, it's just making higher lows and higher highs. So bullish bias here. Next target would be 21910, which is this support resistance level here. So bullish bias for Nikkei there. Nasdaq here, as we can see, this is also in a holding pattern. A lot of these equities here or indices are in holding pattern here. So it's kind of sitting above this high. We did see a bullish close on Friday. So again, with this one here as well, if you see, it's such a narrow range that it's in a waiting, holding pattern here. It's just waiting. And with this one, again, it could just come down. It could go into the resistance once again and drop from there. But overall, bias is bullish. So if it crosses to the other side here, looking for it to go further up, target would be 7220 level, which is the next support and resistance level right there. And then if the news, like I said, is super positive, a lot of times what happens is we can get these sentiment moves that basically they overcorrect, right? Or over push to the other side. So just watch out for that, because what happens is when we get huge momentum moves, they can just come back down as well as soon as all those orders have been taken in. So right now, bias is bullish. Same thing with DAX here as well. It's sitting, it made that push high to break through, holding higher, which means this one could also go higher. And for DAX, the target is 11667. So bullish bias overall. As we can see, trend is to the upside. It's moving higher, so bias is bullish. And this one was trading in a range. So if you want to see a range breakout, this is how the range tends to break out. So price was trading in this range, and especially this closer range here for some time. It broke above, came back to test the previous support resistance. It's holding above. So we will look for a next move higher. Now, again, I said, news will be very important for all the equity indices as well as yen crosses, because it will drive things. It will create those sentiment moves. But for now, looking bullish, target is 11667 to the upside. This one is interesting. FTSE here. As we can see, it's sort of turning around, but it's still sort of in that bullish phase here still. Hasn't really corrected completely. So we have that pullback into our previous support resistance level. And when price does that, it can get that push up to the upside here and go up like that. So overall bias here is bullish. Now this one could come back lower even and then push higher. But either way, bias for now is bullish. And I would look for a move higher. And target is right there at 7,300. Now, should we get trade relations going well, 7,500 will be the target. But on the daily, see how we are slowly making the way down. On the daily, the trend is shifting. So even on Friday, we had a slightly bearish close here. It's sitting like this. So we have this triangle formation, and it can break to the downside. So watch out for that. And that's why we have to look at different time frames to really analyze what's going on in the market. So from a daily perspective, this is trailing to the downside. But from a weekly perspective, still looking bullish. So we have to wait and see how this one, which way it will fall. But we have those two scenarios mapped out. So our planning is done. And then as market unfolds, we will see how things play out then. Any questions before we wrap this up? Oh, yeah, Rick, actually, the drawing tool that I'm using is actually not on MT4. It comes with this web conference software that I'm using. I'm using Zoom, so it comes with a Zoom. But what I do with the MT4 is I just use my trend lines to draw. So I would just literally do one of these, and it's a little bit more, more of a headache. But yeah, I just use my drawing tool from there. I don't have one for MT4. No. Oh, you know what? Not on MT4, but you can use no, actually, I was going to say you can use that snip tool on the, but you have to take a picture to draw it. All right. So that's all. No other questions. Perfect. All right, so questions about Turning Pro Challenge. We will take a look at it. There are different groups there. I have, so Nicola had done a post. Have a look at that and put yourself in one of the groups. For Monday, nothing. Now we have learned how to do analysis, or you have watched me do analysis. So for everybody who's in the Turning Pro Challenge, all I want you guys to start doing, we're all set up now. Now this week we'll be getting into the meat of things. So now I need you to start looking at your charts and start doing the analysis the way I have been doing it. So if you're not that good at it right now, don't worry about it. I will be teaching you all about it. But you do want to start looking at charts and start looking at news and the things that I talked about in our training. Perfect. Sounds good. And Tuesday we'll have another training session, and then we'll dive into things. All right, you guys. Perfect. So that's it for today. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you again. Bridget, the training on Tuesday is, I will create an event in our Facebook group, and you'll be able to see it. It will be the same time as it was last time. And if you log into your course portal, all the times are listed in the welcome section. So they will stay the same throughout the challenge. Awesome. You guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.